Hi everybody, my name is Julie. Welcome back to Pages and Pens. Today I am here with another writing video all about how I utilize my notebooks. Let's jump right into it. First up, I will say this is a caveat. Everybody uses their writer notebooks differently. Some people use only online. They do all their brainstorming, drafting, everything online. A lot of people use Notion, but I do use a notebook when I'm writing my books. I write exclusively on my computer, but all my brainstorming, a lot of my character work, my info dumpy kind of stuff, that is in my notebooks. So I'm going to go over, because some of you had asked questions when I was doing my Nano and showing you guys that this is the notebook that I use for my recent novel. You wanted to know what was in my notebooks. So this is my notebook that was for my most recent contemporary that I just did for Nano 2020. This is my notebook for my Nano 2019. And this is my notebook for my contemporary fantasy. I have a notebook for each one. I'm going to show you how I utilize them. So this one really did help me from the beginning because it has, if you can see along the side here, like an orange, a pink, a green, a blue section. So orange was a lot of just brainstorming notes, and then pink was all of my character work, and then my blue was a lot of my query work, and then green was a lot of my editing work. And that's just the way that I kind of broke down this particular notebook. But this is like a mess. I was still kind of trying to figure out what worked best for me. So it's not the greatest example. And I actually have another one that I can't find right now, which is also not the best. Because this one is actually for book 2 of my Contemporary Fae series, which may or may not ever exist. But I wrote like 50,000 words of. You know, so book 1 is somewhere, but I literally moved everything around for Nano, and I feel like some stuff got moved because I moved like only what I needed for the current Nano up top, so I need to find it. It's somewhere. I didn't get rid of it. So not the best example. I think right now this may be the most valid example because this is what I'm working on right now. This is my Nano 2019 notebook. This will probably be the best example of how I utilize it. So in the very front, I have a whole bunch of post-it notes because as I write things down, when I was drafting, things that I wanted to make sure that I did, when I was editing, as I take out stickies, use stickies, whatever. If I have notes that have a sticky note, I put them back in here when I'm done, just so that I know what I'm working on. In the front, I have notes on my main character. I also have some craft notes. So I went through a lot of my craft books and I wrote down questions, or if they had a checklist for character development, I would write their questions in here and then answer them for my main character. A Save the Cat outline. So this is my Act 1 outline with very brief notes. So I have my opening image and it describes in a sentence what my opening image is. And then my theme stated, my setup, my catalyst, and my debate. I have like 1 sentence, 2 sentence maybe that just kind of goes over what I want to cover in that area. Act 2, Act 3, that's still Act 2 actually, and then I have Act 3, so I go through everything. This is for Save the Cat. It kind of falls into that buddy love category, kind of, sort of, maybe. So I have that in here. And then I have things here on writing the breakout novel and some different things that they asked me to think about while I was plotting my book. Contemporary plot techniques, general techniques that I wanted to make sure I kept in mind. The Constant Art of Being a Writer had some notes in here that I used. And then I did a full character study on my main character, which lasts a good couple of pages, which basically goes down all of her flaws, all of her strengths, all of her family members, any of her associates, anybody who comes into her circle, just general vibes about her. And then I have some comp titles with their word counts, so I make sure I stay in that genre's basic word count and keep that in mind when I'm writing. So I have a whole bunch of different comp titles there. Then I have some notes in here that are like technical notes. So my main character does work with website stuff, and I used to own an online magazine. I'm used to website stuff, but there were a couple aspects that I knew she would be dealing with that I didn't know about that were more on the IT side that I wanted to make sure I researched and understood a little bit better, so I made notes about that. And then I got into title brainstorming, just essentially a working title brainstorming, things that I thought might work. Side names to remember, or events and timelines to remember. Maybe somebody just gets mentioned a couple times, but enough to need a name. So that's in there. So that's kind of how I set all of that up in the very beginning. And then I take all of that, I kind of move to Scrivener, I outline it a little bit better. And then while I'm in Scrivener, I'll set up each of my scenes or chapters and where they fall into like the Save the Cat. And then in each one of my chapters, I will have an outline of usually 3 to 4, maybe 5 paragraphs of what's going to happen in that chapter, and then I draft. So the notebook really doesn't get touched a lot during that time period, because by then I've worked through enough of my character, my plot, all of these kind of beginning stages that they're in my head. If I really need to reference something, I can come back to this, but I do move a lot of this into character sheets that are on Scrivener so that they're easily accessible without having to go to my notebook. So then this really comes back in later. So this sat for a very long time. I do have some tabs in here where I work on different things at different stages so I can find them easily. So here I have like fix the plot or plot holes, things that I wanted to add, things that I wanted to work on, scenes that I still needed to write will maybe go in here. So if I'm writing and I realize, oh, that's not quite where I want it to be, I can make a note to go back and address those areas. I also have a timeline in here for dates, for romance, for family events, for technical things with the website. I have a timeline of the chapter and where those things fall so that I make sure that the timeline for those events makes sense. So all of that goes in here. Then I had a new outline tab here because things changed at my finale area and I had to rework my ending scenes. So that's fine. That all went fantastically. That's all still drafting. Then we have this lovely page, which is notes on initial read through. So my novel sat for nearly a year and then I went back and looked at it. So when I went back to it, I sent it to my Kindle, I read through all of my book and I took basic notes inside of the app as well as in my notebook. So this is everything that I thought when I read through it the first time, that I slipped in and out of tenses. I think that's a normal thing. You have to kind of go back and check those things. My initial thoughts upon reading it. How did I feel about the book? Overall, pretty great. I did not do Pit Mad for this one. This was for December 3rd's Pit Mad, which just passed. Today's the 4th. And I did not make Pit Mad for this one because I don't have it completed yet. So I was not able to do Pit Mad for this one. Did not matter. Then we have to-do list prioritized. So after my first read through, I went through and said, here's what I need to do to fix my story before it goes out to any critique partners. And it was scenes that I needed to add, some things that I needed to flesh out, wording edits, deleting certain things that didn't need to be there, and then just things to keep in mind. And I also had to do a different like mixed media aspect of the book. I had to add in completely upon the next writing. I have notes on the added scenes that I needed to do. And then I have run through Kindle edits, big picture fixes, add scenes, map the novel, mixed media, and then line edits I wanted to do. So a little to-do list. Then I utilize a couple different tools. For this one, I got Pro Writing. So Pro Writing tool is basically an editing tool. So it's like Grammarly on steroids, and it runs through, it'll check your tenses, word usage, overused words, sticky sentences, your grammar. It looks at all of that and then you're able to fix it. You're also able to use it as an add-on to Word, to Scrivener. So it like, you don't have to change and swap over edits. It was beautiful. I will say it was a little bit glitchy. I ran an update. I'm hoping that fixes itself. But in general, it caught a lot of things for me, which was really nice. But I do think it caused a couple of errors. It would like move words around or only take part of a word when it was deleting a word to replace a word. So there were some typos throughout my novel that critique partners caught. because I think of this. So it gives you like an overall score of what your chapter or scene or novel looks like, depending on how much you look at a time. And you're able to see like what your overall score is for like readability, and then after edits if it's gone up. So that's basically what I did. I categorized, like I just kept a track of every chapter, what my initial score was, and then after edits how I had increased or gotten better. And then it sat and it went away because at that point I sent it off to critique partners, and this time I did 2 critique partners. Keep it small so that your feedback is manageable. I was hands off for a very long time. I actually got my critique partner feedback in the middle of Nano and I didn't look at it. I couldn't because I was in the middle of drafting another book, so I knew I couldn't worry about it. But as soon as I was done drafting my next contemporary, the journal project, I came back to this. So this is what I worked on for the last couple days of Nano when I was doing the writing sprints. I was working on these edits. I was going through my critique partner notes. So what I did for that was take their emails and any notes within the manuscript that they sent back and made a big list. So this is all of the notes that they had for me, anywhere where they thought characters didn't behave properly, or writing was a little bit choppy, or was this scene really necessary, or could this scene be fleshed out more. Any notes that they had, I went through and I just made a little checklist for myself. So this is all of the notes from my critique partners. And then from that, I made my own to-do list. I went through and handled a lot of the easy stuff first. And then I go in for like the larger picture, like fixes, which I think is pretty common, I think. I don't know. I might not have to check and fix typos if a scene changes anyway, but I'd rather just attack those first and then deal with the big picture stuff later. So that is how I have utilized this notebook. Now, that's the exact same thing that I did with the current Nano 2020 project. This has all of my character work, character backstory, my Save the Cat. It has research in here. It has a lot that's changed because initially this was going to be a thriller and now it is not a thriller. So a lot of the beginning pages of this do not matter at all. But I have character notes in here for my main character. I have genre notes and I have comp titles. And when I was writing my book, I went through and made some notes as well. So this one is just like a little baby journal. It has not really bloomed yet. I don't have any notes in here from a read through that I did. I don't have any notes in here from my own editing. And there's no notes from critique partners yet because I haven't gotten to that stage with this novel. I literally just finished writing it for the very first time. Where I will say, this one has a little bit more notes. I did have some stuff in here for my contemporary fantasy. Again, this is not the notebook, but my contemporary fantasy does have notes for what I'm looking for in agents. It had samples of query letters. It had brainstorming for synopsis or back cover things for query letters. It had pitches for PitchMad. It had dream agents. It had a list of agents for other really popular series that were kind of comparable to mine, as well as comp titles. But that one went a lot further in terms of now it had critique partner notes, it had my edit notes, and then it went to agent lists and then keeping track of agent submissions, what different people wanted, my one-line summary, my paragraph summary, my one-page synopsis. It had all of that kind of brainstormed in there before I went to my computer to write them. That was all in that notebook. So it kind of progresses. You'll see the beginning will be brainstormy, and then my edits, critique partner edits, to-do lists for fixing all of those kinds of things. And then you'll get into the query stage. And that's what I do. And each one of the books has one of these notebooks, and they'll progress as the story progresses. And right now, I'm back in this one, which is from 2019. And this one will sit for a while until I'm done with that one. And that one is querying. And then I'll come back to this one again. And that's kind of the cycle. So that is how I utilize my notebooks. I will also say that I do use, like I said, Pro Writing Tool, which is the editing software. And I have also just recently started using Notion to organize things, do mood boards. And I've also just now subscribed to One Stop for writers, which has a ton of resources. It has the sources for everything you could imagine, giant character sketches that it'll walk you through, like building your characters, building your plot. It's a really great resource. I haven't played with it enough or explored it enough to really know, but I'm assuming I will probably utilize those as well in future drafts and in future notebooks, and kind of moving some of that into my notebook, because once you've created things in One Stop for Writer, you can actually download it as a PDF and then print it, and then I could just kind of like put it into my notebook. You wanted to know how I use my notebook for writing, and that's how I use it. It's usually a brain dump in the beginning, and then it's a place to organize thoughts for my first read through, thoughts from my own personal edits, and then thoughts from critique partners, and then a to-do list for how to attack their ideas and corrections, and then querying stuff. There's a lot of brainstorming that has to happen with query letters, synopsises. All of that requires a lot of just like really sitting down and thinking about the story, and I find that I do that better when I'm handwriting. That is how my notebooks age and progress and develop over time of working on a story, which takes a very long time. So thank you for requesting this one. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions that I did not address, do let me know in a comment down below and I will happily answer it for you. That is going to be it for now. If you liked this video and found it informative, do give me a big thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. Subscribe if you like this content, and I will see all of you in my next video. Bye guys.